So the Chiefs beat the Chargers again in another down-to-the-wire game via a doinked field goal, and while there are some definite bright spots with Mahomes pulling off yet another game-winning drive, 2 players left the game questionable to return, and both of these were positions that already were areas of concern. So I got to talk about that along with what updates I know so far, key takeaways and highlights from this game, a new signing made today in the midst of injury concerns, and more. But first, how about those? All right, let's just jump straight into this doozy of a game that once again ended in typical Chiefs fashion at this point. Down to the wire. I lost all my hair again. You know how it goes. Anyway, LA won the toss and deferred, and what we saw to start things out was the newly signed wideout Nico Remigio out there to return the kickoff alongside Samaje Perine. He didn't return the kickoff, not this time, but Nico was elevated from the practice squad to the active roster over the weekend when it was reported that McCole Hardman was being placed on injured reserve with a knee injury of sorts. We don't know the severity of it at this point in time, but for now, he misses the next 4 weeks, and Nico Remigio did a pretty good job in his debut. All you got to do is catch the ball on these punts and don't fumble it like Kadarius Toney did with the Browns on Sunday. Nico had 2 kick returns as well as 3 punt returns on the night for 34 yards with a long of 21, so I had to immediately shout him out from the jump. And somebody else to mention off the bat here is going to be the Chiefs' new left tackle, their 3rd starting left tackle of the season in DJ Humphries, who also made his debut last night as well since tearing his ACL late last season. Honestly, he started off pretty rough, but this man had no training camp, no preseason, and maybe 1 padded practice before being thrown to the freaking wolves. The Chargers defense is elite, #1 scoring defense, and have one of the top pass rushes in all of football at this point in time. They are a legitimate problem, to say the least. That's why DJ Humphries also gave up 8 pressures to 5 different defenders, according to Next Gen Stats. It's a combination of they are great, DJ Humphries is knocking off rust, and growing pains were honestly to be expected. What wasn't expected, though, was DJ Humphries to have to leave the game late in the 4th quarter due to a hamstring injury of sorts that I'll get to here soon. But before we worry about any of that, let's just talk about this game. The opening drive was stopped after a tough Baylor Cup drop. And if you're like, who the heck is Baylor Cup? He's a tight end on the practice squad that got elevated for this game for the Chiefs because there's only 2 tight ends on the roster, Travis Kelce and Noah Gray, with everybody else being on IR. Then on 3rd and 10, Mahomes was sacked after the O-line collapsed and he had nowhere to go. That led to a 47-yard Matthew Wright field goal, who's the Chiefs' 3rd kicker in roughly a month after both Harrison Butker and Spencer Schrader were placed on IR a couple weeks apart. It's not funny, but laughter is my medicine as I get through pain. Anyway, after that field goal, Leo Chanel suplexed Gus Edwards on LA's first offensive play, which was pretty wild to see. His strength on display, one of the pound-for-pound strongest guys in the NFL. Turk Wharton then sacked Herbert as he was trying to scramble out of the pocket to help set up a long 3rd and 16. That, of course, they converted. Quentin Johnston hauled in this catch and took a hell of a hit from Nick Bolton, held onto the ball through contact as well. And Bolton, even though he led with his shoulder on the hit, that was a defenseless receiver flag. 15-yard penalty, personal foul. Thankfully, though, a hold backed them up 10 yards. Leo Chanel blew up this screenplay, and Herbert couldn't scramble for the first down. He did walk off a little gimpy after that play, talking about Justin Herbert getting his ankle wrapped up, but it didn't really seem to bother him for the rest of the game. He had another injury we'll talk about later, but again, no injury concerns at this point in time, and that led to the first of 9 punts on the evening. A nice 13-yard screen to Hunt and a quick pass to D-Hop helped to move Casey along, but Mahomes was hit as he threw on back-to-back plays to force their first punt of the evening. It was a beautiful punt, by the way, from Matt Ariza that was downed by Najee Johnson at the 2. Didn't matter, though, because a couple plays later, a 38-yard strike to Joshua Palmer with Jaden Hicks trailing in coverage very quickly got them to midfield. Johnston almost fumbled on a screen but was ruled down, and Jalen Reagor was wrapped up quickly by Trent McDuffie on 3rd down for another punt. The Chiefs then went just 5 plays for a total of 21 yards. Mahomes scrambled for 1 first down, but was sacked on 3rd and 4 by Joey Bosa, another big stop for LA's defense. Well, after a bobbled punt that was recovered by the returner Darius Davis, Herbert just barely missed a wide open Joshua Palmer deep downfield that would have resulted in like an 80-yard touchdown, but thank God he overthrew the guy by like a yard, and a deflected pass by Trent McDuffie on a blitz forced yet another punt for LA. Remigio then had an awesome 21-yard punt return to give KC great field position, and Juju Smith-Schuster was somehow forgotten about in the middle of the field and took this Mahomes pass 26 yards up the field. However, Mahomes then got sacked for a third time, this time by Derwin James on a blitz. He got by both DJ Humphries and Isaiah Pacheco to quickly bring Mahomes down. That was 3 sacks very quickly in this game, but thankfully, that was the last time Mahomes was going to get sacked all game. Don't get me wrong, he still got hit a ton of times, like 14 times in this game, but after 10 minutes left in the second quarter, no more sacks took place. Regardless, on this drive, the Chiefs got into the red zone, but couldn't overcome a 3rd and 5 at the 15 because Mahomes was, you guessed it, hit as he threw. Matthew Wright then banged a quick 33-yarder to bring KC up 6-0. Darius Davis then almost broke off a huge kick return, but he was stopped, thank God, as was LA's offense when Vidal couldn't haul in a quick pass on 3rd down. The Chiefs also went 3 and out when Mahomes targeted D-Hop deep down the field, and even though there was contact on his route, quite a bit of it, the refs didn't throw a flag because it was deemed as an uncatchable ball. My thing is, his route was clearly impeded after 5 yards, and I believe even before Mahomes threw. That probably should have been illegal contact or holding, so it was more surprising to me that they didn't flag that. I understand the uncatchable thing, DPI, whatever, but the Chiefs always get all the calls, so oh well. That set up the Chargers to go 3 and out again as well after a holding call negated a big Quentin Johnston catch. Nick Bolton, by the way, hit Herbert as he threw on this play, and he went down clearly in pain. They were looking at his knee and needed some medical attention to help get him off the field, but thankfully he was able to return and finished out the game, so didn't seem like anything too serious. And all this made for a pretty boring, quote-unquote boring first half that featured 8 punts. As you've noticed, they've been playing ping pong with punts back and forth all half long, but don't worry, because on the Chiefs' last drive of the half, they were able to march down the field 77 yards in just 9 plays for some excitement. Mahomes was hit as he threw on 3rd and 7, but hit Worthy on a shallow crosser who took it across and up for 11 yards. Juju helped draw a DPI up the left sideline, and Kelce caught this pass to bring them inside the 20. Shortly after, Pirine almost, thank God he didn't, fumbled the handoff but held on and moved the chains to help set up this 9-yard strike to D-Hop as he fell backwards into the end zone for a Kansas City touchdown. That made it 13-0 with just 47 seconds to go in the half. The Chargers tried to get something going, but on the last play of the half, tight end Will Dissly took a shot by Justin Reed and never returned in the second half due to a shoulder injury. That's just a weird decision by the Chargers. You throw a pass in the middle of the field like that with time expiring and no timeouts. Then on top of it, you got one of Herbert's favorite pass catchers injured, so questionable play calling there by the Chargers. And this is where I thought the Chiefs had a chance to potentially go up 20-0 in the second half early. You had to get a stop on defense first, of course, but as you'll see here in a moment, LA finally caught fire and made things very uncomfortably close for the remainder of the second half. So I've got to talk about that, the insane ending, as well as some potentially concerning takeaways from this game, as well as a new cornerback, kind of new cornerback that the Chiefs just signed. But before I do, if you want to make your nutrition goals easier than ever by having fresh, never frozen, dietitian-approved meals that are actually delicious, shipped right to your doorstep and are ready to eat in just 2 minutes, then look no further than to today's sponsor, Factor. Factor takes the stress out of meal planning, allowing you to skip grocery stores, prep work, and cooking fatigue. There's over 35 meals to choose from each week, including options like keto, protein plus, vegan and veggie, among others, and also more than 60 add-ons from breakfast, smoothies, juices, like the apple ginger cold pressed juices I got this week, very tasty and only 100 calories, and so much more. I've personally been using Factor for over a year now, and I have yet to be disappointed. I got more keto meals this go round since I eat pretty low carb, and once again, the Tex-Mex beef bowl was my favorite, but the chicken piccata as well as the black pepper and sage pork chop were fire as well. I mean, it was all good, let's be honest. And if you want to enjoy great meals like these and save time on grocery trips, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code 50HBTC to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first Factor box. That's code 50HBTC at factor75.com to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. All right, so the second half featured the Chargers making some sort of an adjustment on offense because they did literally nothing in the first half aside from punt the ball 5 times and that last drive of the half ended in a weird fashion that I just talked about, but they found some life to start the third quarter. Multiple runs and quick passes set up a 4th and 2 that Joshua Palmer helped convert via this 15-yard catch. That 4th down play, by the way, featured a pretty odd timeout from Chris Jones that had both Andy Reid and Spags confused. They were like this, on the sideline. Chris Jones made it seem like he couldn't hear communication properly or something. Not really sure, but it didn't really matter because they converted that play. Anyway, Chris Jones did then completely blow up this jet sweep to Darius Davis, an absolutely incredible play by the CEO of Sack Nation, but on 2nd and 16, Stone Smart, the tight end in the game with Will Dissly out, high-pointed this catch to bring them inside the 10 with Chamari Connor once again in coverage, and Gus the Bus helped finish the drive for the touchdown. That went 13 plays and took almost 8 minutes of game time. Well, Mahomes and company then immediately went 3 and out as they were unable to convert on 3rd and 1, and the Chiefs defense found themselves right back out there on the field. Herbert then targeted Quentin Johnston deep, and Justin Reid drew a DPI flag to move them 39 yards upfield. Stone Smart did it again. This time he beat Nick Bolton to get another 24 yards up the left side, and in just 2 plays, LA was at the 11-yard line about to score again. On 3rd and 3, Justin Herbert had nearly 5 seconds to throw from a very clean pocket and found Quentin Johnston wide open for their 2nd touchdown of the night and their first lead. The extra point officially put them up 14-13, the Chiefs trailing by 1 with 3.5 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. I'm not a fan of how quickly things changed, but such is life sometimes. The Chiefs then found themselves some life on this drive as well, a little bit, with Samaje Perine making an incredible move on 3rd and 3 for 16 yards. Catches by Kelce and Juju brought them into LA territory, and multiple Pacheco runs got KC inside the 20. They were then facing a 3rd and 1, but not so fast because Trey Smith got flagged for unnecessary roughness, moving them back to face a 3rd and 16 instead, a very costly penalty there. Mahomes then took a shot down the left sideline to DeAndre Hopkins, who almost reeled it in but got lit up, dropped the pass, and was a bit shaken up on the play. We haven't heard much on that front, but hopefully Hop is fine. I believe he came in later in the game, so I'm not worried about any long-term injuries, but I'm surprised that hit didn't draw a flag, only because it was pretty similar to Justin Reid getting flagged in the game against the Panthers when he made that tackle on the back of the end zone on the 2-point conversion. And then you can't forget Nick Bolton got hit with the personal foul as well, making a hard hit earlier on in this game. But with that incompletion, Matthew Wright kicked another field goal to bring the Chiefs up 2. Nick Bolton then sacked the hell out of Herbert, but on 2nd and 18, Quentin Johnston caught a check down, turning it into 20, a 20-yard gain after Joshua Williams knocked him out of bounds. And something happened to Joshua Williams on this play, by the way. He was immediately replaced after this by Najee Johnson and taken to the locker room for evaluation, listed as questionable to return with a chest injury. Andy Reid spoke with the media today and said Joshua Williams is feeling better today, but he was getting with Chiefs head trainer Rick Burkholder afterwards to see where Williams is at with all that. Well, hopefully the injury isn't too serious because the team is already paper thin at the cornerback position, and that's why they brought in a veteran defensive back today that was initially drafted by the Chiefs some time ago, but more on that here in a bit, because after that play by Quentin Johnston, LA began marching down the field once again, converting a key 3rd and 7 to Joshua Palmer, and eventually getting all the way to KC's 17. From there, the defense did hold strong, with Turk Wharton recording his 2nd sack of the night. Let's go. And that created a deficit too difficult for LA to overcome. Dicker, the kicker, then kicked a chip shot 37-yarder to bring LA up 17-16, Chiefs trailing by 1 with 4.5 minutes to go in the game and 2 timeouts, plus the 2-minute warning. On top of that, the Chiefs offense started with the ball at their own 40-yard line because Cameron Dicker attempted a line drive of a kickoff and completely whiffed with the ball bouncing well short of the landing zone. However, KC quickly found themselves facing a 3rd and 10 after 2 incompletions, and this time, Mahomes did just enough to extend the play, stepping up into the pocket and a little to the left, finding Xavier Worthy in the middle of the field for 14 yards. I also want to point out that Samaje Perine made a monster of a block and pass protection on Derwin James as he was sent on a blitz. He got lit up in the process as well, talking about Perine, but he helped Mahomes stay protected just long enough to get that pass to Worthy. So Perine, you are a hero. For that one, I salute you. However, I have bad news about the very next play after the Worthy first down. On 1st and 10, Watch the left tackle here, DJ Humphries. He went to make a block and immediately pulled up limping and hopping on one leg. From there, he went down on one knee and eventually got helped walking gingerly to the sideline. From there, he never returned, was listed as questionable to return with a hamstring injury. Wanye came in and did a nice job to finish things off on this final drive, but the larger concern is DJ Humphries was supposed to be the solution at the left tackle spot heading into the playoffs, so how bad is it? Well, Andy Reid said today that Humphries is feeling better today. I don't know how much better. If he was at an 8, is it a 7? If he was at a 3, is it a 2? Don't know, but he's getting an MRI done today to get more clarity. Well, hopefully it's a minor hamstring strain once all is said and done, and he just needs a few weeks of rest, rather than it being serious enough to end his season after playing just one game. Honestly, that was probably part of the reason why the Chiefs reportedly didn't really plan on having Humphries out there until the Browns game, which is a week away, well, December 15th, technically. But the inconsistency of Mahomes' blindside protection forced their hand to have him play a little bit sooner. Humphries, of course, said he was ready, and you can't predict injuries, but the lack of a proper ramp-up, no training camp, no preseason, nothing, definitely played a role here, and all we can do at this point in time is hope that it's not too serious. Anyway, with Humphries out and Wanye in, Mahomes then used his legs to get the next first down. Then Pacheco converted a 3rd and 1 to move the chains again. A couple of Kareem Hunt runs then had the Chiefs facing 3rd and 7. Meanwhile, the Chargers used all their timeouts, and the 2-minute warning just ended. So, if LA got a stop here on this 3rd down, it would force the Chiefs to attempt a field goal, and if they made it, go up by 2, but the Chargers would have over a minute to try and march back down the field to kick a game-winning field goal and end it all. Well, this is where Mahomes said he was going to make something happen to Andy Reid and company on the sideline. They ran a play that had Mahomes moving right, and at the last second, he avoided pressure, juking left, and found a wide-open Travis Kelce for the first down. Apparently, Kelce was supposed to run a corner route, but kind of just did his own thing, per usual on some of these plays, and was literally just chilling there wide open, which is pretty crazy, yet it worked again. Some vintage Mahomes to Kelce magic. We've seen that time and time again. And from there, the Chiefs ended up being able to kneel down a couple of times and call a timeout with 1 second left on the clock. Matthew Wright then just had to make a typically pretty easy 31-yard field goal to win it all, and he did make it, but it was a scary sight as the ball went way left and bounced off the left upright and in for the win. This was the 3rd kicker for the Chiefs this year to kick a game-winning field goal, the 15th one-score W in a row for the Chiefs going back to last year, and the 10th one-score win on the season. On top of that, the Chiefs moved to 12-1 on the year, clinched the AFC West for the 9th year in a row, and are now a game and a half up on the Buffalo Bills because they lost yesterday to the Rams in a wild game by a score of 42-44. All in all, the Chiefs managed to do just enough to win, beating a team boasting the #1 scoring defense and a division opponent twice in 1 year. And I truly believe if they needed a touchdown at the end of the game there, they would have scored. That's why this Chiefs team is so interesting to me. On 3rd downs and with the game on the line, basically nobody is better, yet they are rather pedestrian on 1st and 2nd downs. Don't really have any explosive plays, but they get the job done. They finished 8 for 15 on 3rd down, converting 53% of the time against the 2nd best 3rd down defense in the league. Mahomes played pretty well when not getting pressured or hit as he threw, and a key part in this win was him throwing 0 interceptions. Neither team had a turnover, actually, in this one, with Kelce and Worthy leading in receptions. D-Hop was next with 4 and a touchdown, plus Juju, Noah Gray, and every running back also had some catches. And speaking of running backs, Pacheco led the night with 14 carries to Hunt's 5. Last week, they split at 7 apiece. So it's interesting to see Pacheco. He's got the charge, or leading the charge, rather, with Hunt maybe taking a back seat as they get him rested up. He definitely carried in Pacheco's absence and get him rested up for the playoff picture. They averaged 3.8 yards per carry on the night as a whole, which includes Mahomes' 4 carries for 17 yards. He was sacked 3 times and hit like a million, probably like 14, but came out without injury, which I am most pleased about. Then the defense held the Chargers to 0 in the first half, but did allow Herbert and company to put up 17 in the second half, sans Ladd McConkey. However, allowing just 17 points should be plenty for the offense to be able to get the job done, i.e., They should be able to easily score more than 17 points to win, and they managed to pull off yet another nail-biter via the doink. They just keep finding weird ways to win, and it stresses me out. The Chargers had several guys with decent outings in the receiving game, with Palmer, Smart, and Johnston all near 50 yards or more, but they held a run-first LA team to roughly 4 yards per carry to their running backs. I mean, it was decent on the night, to be honest, but just 6 for 13 on third downs. The pass rush did get to Herbert 3 times, but there were other times when Herbert had time to roast marshmallows, literally roast them back there in the pocket. So we need to see more from the front four. But remember, the Chargers O-line is honestly pretty great. Kelce takes on the Browns next this Sunday at noon, with Jameis Winston confirmed to be the starting quarterback. And while that's a convo for another day, they may very well be starting Wanya Morris at left tackle and Najee Johnson again in the secondary, depending on the severity of Humphries' hamstring issue as well as Joshua Williams' chest injury. However, it's worth noting the Chiefs did bring back a very familiar face today, signing cornerback Steven Nelson to the practice squad. He came in for a visit, passed his physical, and just like that, the 31-year-old veteran corner is once again a Kansas City Chief. He was a third-round pick by the Chiefs in 2015, and then after the conclusion of his 4-year rookie contract, has since played for the Steelers, Eagles, and most recently, the Texans. In 2023, he had 12 pass breakups and 4 INTs, which those interceptions were twice as many as the leader of the Chiefs in receptions on defense, which was L'Jarius Sneed, who had 2. He honestly played better after leaving Bob Sutton's defense and had his second best career coverage grade, for what that's worth, last season with the Texans. He's going to take some time to get ramped up, I would imagine, and brought back up to speed. Again, he's playing in a defensive system that he was not a part of because Spags took over after Bob Sutton was fired in 2018. But as the Chiefs prepare for the playoff stretch, you're going to be able to have this guy in there working in some capacity, and adding depth and a veteran at that that's smart and can work in is never going to hurt. And I do commend Brett Veach and company for continuing to try and help out areas of weakness on the roster. I don't think Steven Nelson's going to be a game changer. I understand he had some rough seasons with the team in Kansas City. I remember being frustrated as well, but I'm going to go ahead and chalk that up to Bob Sutton and the defense just kind of being a disaster overall, and I'm definitely willing to give Steven Nelson a chance. But let me know your thoughts on the signing of Steven Nelson, as well as your main takeaways from this game in the comments down below. And for more info on him, I went live about the signing and dove a little bit deeper into my thoughts around that, so you can check that out here. And until next time, let's go. Let's freaking go. How about those?